Hi, James. We're here at the Continuous Delivery Conference in Stockholm 2017. You're giving a keynote on technical excellence. Can you give us just a quick rundown? What is the takeaway from your keynotes?
Sure, Lars. Thanks for inviting me and giving me a chance to tell you a little bit about it. The talk came about a number of years ago when the Scrum community invited me to do a keynote at one of their gatherings, and I asked them if I could tell them what I thought some of the problems were. And so they said, yes, just be nice. And so I think I've accomplished that. And one of the things that I've noticed in our industry is that a lot of people are going through the motions, what I kind of call the easy side, the planning cycle of Scrum, and not doing the difficult part of the technical practices. And lots of times it's been my experience that people don't know why they should do them, so they decide not to. Or maybe they just don't do them because they don't know there's anything there. So my keynote today is to help people that are not technical know why the technical practices are important, and they could maybe go back and nudge their teams in that direction. And for the technical teams, technical people that might not know about it, so they can be more aware. And maybe for people that are aware but don't know how to help sell it, I've got some simple models and things I use that kind of illustrate why not doing things like test automation and kind of what the problems we're trying to solve by doing test-driven development. Right? So that they could take those back and maybe try to socialize them with their teams.
And I saw your keynote, and it's also a lot about people, right? I mean, you call it about technical excellence, but it turns out that it's a lot about people, really.
Well, yeah, so I'm an engineer, so that's the uncomfortable part, of course, for me. But I've come to discover that you can't just be in it for the engineering. The people aspect and people working together to learn from each other and respecting each other, something I'd like to see a lot more of in our industry and our world.
And I want to, while I have you here, I want to touch on the topic that I can touch. One of the founding fathers of the Agile Manifesto, right? Ooh. You were there at the skiing resort in Utah, right, 16 years ago.
That's right.
And you're one of the you're one of the masterminds behind this immensely popular manifesto, right? So a few words on that. Where were we then? Why did you do it? And where are we today, 16 years later?
You know why I did it. It's in Snowbird. I wanted to go skiing.
Okay.
My friend Bob Martin invited me, and of course, with the skiing, I had to do it. And I was really learning a lot from those people. Well, from the extreme programming contingent at the Agile Manifesto meeting, that would have been Kent Beck, Ron Jeffries, Martin Fowler, Ward Cunningham. I was learning a lot from them. And Bob, I've worked with a long time, and I've learned a lot from Bob as well. But we were both learning extreme programming at that point in time. And really it was 17 mostly computer nerds going to find out what they had in common with each other, because there was a lot of similar things going on, and but not exactly the same. And so we got together to find out what we had in common, and those 4 bullet points were kind of what we distilled out of one of the things that we used to do in total quality management in the 80s was find our common ground. And so one of the ideas there, and I might have played a small part in suggesting, what do we agree on? Yeah, okay. And what came out of it were those 4 points.
And where do you think we are here 16 years later? Did we achieve everything in there? I mean, it's old news. We don't need Agile anymore. We're done, right?
Yeah, no, I look at my my calendar and say, gee, this was a long time ago, and now there's people that really care about it a lot. And for starters, let me just say, I remember Ward Cunningham saying, well, I'll put it up on a website, but I don't think anybody's going to care. Okay. And a couple of years later, it's like people are caring. Yeah, it's like, this is really strange. And then, today, more and more people are caring. So I'd say we've still got this problem that people are going through the motions, and they don't really understand the problems that are trying to be solved, and they're not really doing this problem-solving activity, which is really at the core of any of these cycle activities. Why is there a 2-week cycle suggested in Scrum and extreme programming? Because you get feedback and you can find out, hey, this didn't work. What can we do that would work? And maybe it doesn't work for the product, maybe it doesn't work for how we work. We got to keep reinventing ourselves, and what might work for me might not work for you, so each team has to figure out their own.
Okay, so the conclusion might be that the manifesto is still very much needed. I mean, people are treating Agile, some people are potentially treating it very much like a buzzword, and maybe just following a stream, but getting back to actually the core content of the meaning of the manifesto, where it's still relevant. That's what you're saying.
Well, it's so vague that it can be relevant for a long time. It doesn't actually prescribe anything.
Okay. Actually, I want to ask you about the 12 supporting principles in the manifesto. Were they also created at the skiing resort?
They were,
Did they come later?
created afterwards as a series of about 1 million emails.
Okay, good. Okay. Yeah. So that's
some
your
number like that.
Feedback loop.
Yeah. There was a big going on about the principles in email discussion.
Good. I want to ask you about. I mean, you've been doing embedded software throughout your career, right? So you're very much engaged in embedded and TDD, and I mean that's your domain.
I started in embedded software in 1979.
Yeah.
Totally by accident.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. So what is there anything particular to mention about Agile and embedded? I mean, is there anything that you see that's different when we talk specifically about embedded software?
I'll tell you a little story I like to tell people. Is when I saw Kent Beck demonstrating test first programming using JUnit and Java at one of the first extreme programming events, I was kind of surprised, and I had a realization that this could really help people doing embedded systems. As a 20-year embedded systems developer, one of the things that I had a problem with throughout my career and thought there was no solution to was that we didn't have hardware until late in the cycle. So we'd have to write code from the beginning of a project initiation to the delivery, and we had nowhere to run that code. Sometimes we'd have a little prototype board, sometimes we'd have the last product, but then usually the big innovations were coming really close to the delivery date because this hardware schedule was driving when we planned on releasing. Now then software really drove the schedule, because then when we started marrying our hardware and our software, nothing worked. And I saw Kent running his code in a test harness, and it was, hey, we could do this for embedded systems.
So maybe you more
than
than
run this code in this environment, and so I thought that was a huge potential. And that kind of the next week I got to work with one of my clients that we were working on an embedded C++ system. And they were willing to try these things right away. And so I got to coach them before I knew how to do it. So it was kind of an interesting experience.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Those are good stories. Thank you very much for joining us here. And
well, thanks, Lars. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks.